What is up? We have made it to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. 8 teams left, 2 games today, 2 games tomorrow, as we inch closer to the Super Bowl and the end of football and that inevitable emptiness that all of us degenerates will spend months trying to fill. But we don't have to worry about that today. We have DFS. Welcome in. This is Club Fantasy's DFS and Chill. And special shout out to our friends over at IBT Media. They are just wrapping up their DFS tailgate. Hopefully they sent you our way, and we appreciate you joining us. With me, as always, the best co-host and also the newest DFS writer for Fantasy Pros, my friend, Kyra Wiaterowski. Kyra, first and foremost, congratulations, and how are you?
Thank you. I'm very, very good, Ryan. Obviously, really excited about doing that, but I'm really excited, honestly, for this slate here today. I think that these games have set up so perfectly matchup-wise, and it's going to be such an exciting weekend of football. I'm just super thrilled that I have tonight off from work and tomorrow to be able to fully immerse myself in watching them and immerse myself in this smaller slate. Because honestly, I mean, maybe it feels more fun to play because all these really good players are priced low enough that you could fit them into your builds. And, it seems like you could almost control your destiny a little better than usual. But as we know, tomorrow we'll find out that that's not true. But I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited to have Jordan on. Jordan, I got to tell you, when we were talking about guests that we wanted to have on the show, most of the time I just let Ryan kind of work it out himself. He's very good at picking people, you know what I mean? I leave that to him. And he's like, is there anybody in specific that you personally want on or personally not want on or something like that? And I'm like, no, I pretty much like everybody, but you know what? I really, you were one of the people I mentioned in saying like he's somebody I really would like to have on the show. I think he does a great job at what he does, and you need to be more of everywhere. So this is why you're here today. I said I don't care if he's like being asked to do any ASMR today because I know you got the voice for the whisper kind of microphone thing. But yeah, we stole you. I don't care what they're trying to do with you over there. You're on DFS and Chill today.
Oh. I appreciate the kind words, definitely. That much appreciated. I've definitely seen a lot of your tweets. I noticed that you supported myself, so I appreciate that. It's nice to be here. Like again, I work for Osmo and 4for4. I do a live before lock show for the playoffs with Osmo and a first look show, and then for 4for4, I do their GPP articles. But recently for the playoffs, I've been showdown, so I got that Chiefs Bills game, all that knowledge in my head. And yes. We'll be doing the Super Bowl as well. So it's been a fun season. I'm excited.
That's awesome. That always leads to the best content when you get to key in on a game because you know everything to know about those players. And I have a feeling we'll be talking about a few of those players today. So
that might be a big game on this slate.
They both have their Twitter handles in there below their names. Make sure you are following both of them. Wonderful Twitter followers. And we've been talking a lot before the show. Jordan does DFS basketball as well. So while I was joking about filling that void, Jordan can help you fill that void this offseason. A couple of quick housekeeping things. So there's going to be 2 main slates. We're not going to really break things down into slate. We're just going to talk about the players. We're actually going to try to hit on every quarterback, running back, tight end, but I'll show you how we're going to do that here in a second. And then my weekly reminder, StreamYard and Twitter do not play well with one another. So if you're watching us on Twitter, we appreciate it. But if you'd like to comment, jump over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe while you're there. Every time we hit subscriber milestones, we're giving away autographed merch. We just gave away a DJ Moore jersey on Wednesday. So follow us. There's incentive into it outside of just wonderful fantasy football content. So as I mentioned, we are going to go quarterback, running back, tight end, defense, where we're basically going to quickly touch on all of them. The only time I'm going to have these guys talk in depth is if they disagree on a player, and then we're going to fill in some back end, low-owned players at the end of the show. So Aaron Rodgers is one we're going to talk about. They both say to fade Aaron Rodgers. Ryan Tannehill's a play. Joe Burrow's a play. Josh Allen's a play. They disagree on Tom Brady. Jimmy Garoppolo is a fade. Patrick Mahomes is a play. Matt Stafford is a play. So no real surprises there. Before we get into Tom Brady, can both of you guys take some time and talk about why we might be fading Aaron Rodgers this week?
So I'll go first here. Just in saying that Rodgers, he's been a pillar of consistency. He's been great. He's having an MVP season. I know it sounds kind of crazy to even want to fade him, especially when I think he obviously has a really good matchup going up against a decimated 49ers secondary. They're at home in Green Bay. I just don't know that they're the 49ers are going to be able to keep the game competitive enough that Aaron Rodgers is going to have to use his arm so much. I think that they can control the ground game. And surprisingly, Rodgers hasn't actually been the QB1 on any week in his last 2 MVP years. So I think that, as good as he is, he just doesn't have the ceiling and the upside as somebody like, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, who use their legs and get it done through the air. That game's going to be fireworks, or at least we think it's going to be fireworks. So if I'm paying up, especially he's the third highest priced quarterback. Yeah. Third highest priced quarterback on the slate there over at DraftKings. I'd rather pay up the extra, $200 for Mahomes or go extra $500 for Josh Allen. I think their ceiling's just way higher.
There we go. We got our buddy Bo in the chat. I think Bo is friends with everybody in DFS world, and he is pumped up for the slate. So
yeah, me too. Me too. I like this slate a lot, actually.
Jordan, talk about Rodgers.
Oh, so for me, it comes from a coverage standpoint where Aaron Rodgers had that stretch where he just started throwing for 300, 3 to 4 touchdowns a week, it felt like. That was against the Vikings, who play a ton of cover one, the Rams, who went to cover one in that game, the Ravens, who do that as well. And then you saw him play a team that plays primarily 2 safeties back with Cleveland. And yes, he threw 3 touchdowns, but he only threw for 202 yards. 49ers are going to approach this game the same way. They're not going to allow him to throw the ball down the air. Even in the first matchup, he threw for 261 and 2 touchdowns. That's where I see his kind of game. And he's priced at a point where it's I'll just find the remaining salary to get to Mahomes and Josh Allen. And with the way that DraftKings price specifically, you have Allen with Diggs, who is cheaper than Rodgers with Devonta Adams, and same thing with Mahomes with Tyreek Hill. So you're not given the salary discount that you're thinking oh, I'm getting down here. You're not playing Aaron Rodgers without Devonta Adams. So it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, you can play Devonta Adams naked, no problem. You're not need Rodgers. You know what I mean? Devonta Adams, we're going to talk about him a little later. I think he's excellent this week. But I think that if you're going to be stacking your quarterback this week, which I always like to stack my quarterback with somebody, it's not necessarily, I'm not excited about Aaron Rodgers, Devonta Adams stack.
I say, Jordan, that might have been the most technical answer we've ever had on DFS and Chill. And I want to give you just a quick second. We normally do this at the end, but you compile coverage stats for a premium membership. Do you want to go ahead and pitch that real quick? Because that is great info to have.
No, if you're at 4 for 4 or Osmo, I definitely provide some spreadsheets here and there. I try to build stuff for myself and just stuff that I reference. A lot of coverage isn't necessarily it's going to happen this way because teams change up. For example, nobody plays the Chiefs with a cover one except for the Raiders for some reason, aka they dropped 48 on them twice. That's the only team that did it. The only team in the NFL. I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, guys, you're seeing everybody keep this cover 2, cover 4, keep things back. Come on. But with for example, Joe Burrow had 14 touchdowns against cover 1. The Ravens run a ton of cover 1. Jamar Chase led the NFL in touchdowns against cover 1. Jamar Chase against the Ravens was here you go. He's 100 yards, 200 yards, stuff like that. So if you do our sub of that, you'll see it in the Discord. If you need it, just reach out to me. I'll send it to you that way as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that's why I like Jordan too. You know what I mean? That's stuff that's the stuff that people want to hear. You know what I mean? It almost seems like it's not rocket science. You know what I mean? It is.
Bo agrees that the Raiders are dumb.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, guys. So let's hit the elephant in the room. I tried to set up some conflict, and I feel like it worked out pretty well. Though Kyra has basically just said it's a gimmick, but you guys disagree on Tom Brady. And Kyra, I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah. So for the first time ever, I'm going to sit here and say, do not fade Tom Brady. I'm done betting against Tom Brady, and I'm especially done betting against Tom Brady if it's going to be in the playoffs. I'm not going to doubt him here as a home favorite with a 48.5 over under. The Rams have allowed the 4th most completions to opposing quarterbacks. They're really good at stopping the run. I know he doesn't have Godwin or AB out there, but Brady doesn't always need some elite wide receiver to produce. It's pretty much most of his career. He hasn't had somebody that has just tied on to him for forever. And other than, maybe Gronk, if you want to call him an elite wide receiver. But honestly, I believe that the Rams could upset Tampa in this game. And if they do, then cool, even better. The Bucs need to throw the ball in that case. These teams I left are so good. They're going to make these games competitive. So I'm not going to – I see Bo's response down there.
I was going to say – I was going to kick to that when we kicked to Jordan over here.
Again, Tom Brady, you're probably going to make me eat my words the other way around this time now, but I'm going to say you don't have to fade Brady, especially when we are seeing a lot more of ownership with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Why not get different? You could choose Tom Brady.
There you go. And Jordan, I'll let you speak for Bo here. So go ahead and talk to us about fading Tom Brady.
I am agreeing with that. And the reason is just his pricing and what he needs to do to get to be the optimal quarterback. Because right now, what's left is the best quarterbacks we have in fantasy football, it feels like. You got Rodgers, you have Stafford, and all these guys. He's going to have to outscore Burrow, Stafford, and Tannehill outright. Then he's going to have to at least keep pace with Mahomes, Allen, and Rodgers. He does have cheap stacking options, which is nice, and it's really centralized where it's just like get Evans and Gronk because you don't really have to look at it elsewhere. But when it comes to the like Buccaneers in general, like their offense line's beat up. The Rams pass rush has the ability to do it. The first time they matched up, like they had all their guys, they got dominated for the most part. They couldn't run the ball. Brady was forced to throw the ball 58 times. And like the way that I see the Bucs winning is if Stafford's pretty much where he just gives up turnovers left and right. And that's just going to limit Brady's upside as that 300-yard bonus for DraftKings. And it's just, for me, I think the Bucs win on defense rather than necessarily Brady getting that 5-touchdown game on offense.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, most of the time, my argument with Brady all year long was, I mean, how long can he sustain throwing multiple touchdowns every single game? But he's continued to do it a lot of times, enough times that I've had to eat my words about it. So just to get different here for us, I know me and Jordan agreed on so much on the show sheet that I just had to, I was like, where am I going to get weird here? And
I was going to say, why not wait till the second to last show to get super weird and then still end up being wrong about Tom Brady?
I set myself up for failure with that one for sure. But yeah, I totally get Jordan's point. Don't get me wrong, but don't necessarily be, I mean, we want to be different here sometimes. And so Tom Brady, if you don't want to eat the chalk with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, I guess there's worse options than Brady out there.
Yeah, and I mean, with that Sunday slate, the leverage you get from Brady is tremendous. Like
Yeah,
that's where I like to play Brady. On the 4 game, I just see like just better quarterbacks from a cheaper standpoint. That's all.
There you go. So, guys, we are playing Ryan Tannehill, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Matt Stafford. We are fading Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Garoppolo, and then it's up to you who you're going to trust in here, Kyra or Jordan and Bo. We're either going to play Tom Brady or fade Tom Brady.
We don't know how to feel.
We're going to jump to running back. I kept everything in order of basically the order of how they made the playoffs. So the teams and then that. So Aaron Jones went running back. We are playing. Derrick Henry is a disagreement. Joe Mixon, we are fading. Devin Singletary, there's a disagreement. Leonard Fournette, there's a disagreement. Elijah Mitchell is a play. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a fade. Cam Akers is a fade, and I love that as a pick because I think a lot of people are going to be on him after last week. I don't think there's a lot of controversy here, so let's just jump into the disagreements, and I'm going to start with the biggest name in all of football for this week, Derrick Henry. And Jordan, you kind of gave yourself a little out here, so I'm going to start with Jordan on you have him as a play, but you kind of specified it's for DraftKings.
Yeah, so FanDuel, he's 10K. Like, that's just very hard to buy into. But with DraftKings, he's 7,900. And when I watched that Bengals game, once they lost their 2 interior defensive linemen, you saw Josh Jacobs started to get run after run. Trey Anderson is coming back with a concussion, but he's a pass rusher. And with this Titans offense, when they've had A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Julio Jones, they actually have the most yards per play, which is, I think it's like 7 yards a play, which is tremendous. It outpaces the Rams by a whole yard, which they've been, I believe, the best offense in the NFL. This team, like, yes, they're going to run the ball. Yes, that the Bengals are going to try to stop it. But if they attempt to do that the whole game, good luck stopping Julio Jones and A.J. Brown in the playoffs. They came back, like, looked healthy enough against that Texans team. And for the Bengals, I just don't see them having the ability to stop Derrick Henry. And if the Titans get a lead, yeah, Henry might not get 25, 30 carries like he was early in the year and score 40 DraftKings points. But the 7,900 price tag, if he gets 20 on this slate with the way the running back position looks, I think he could be the top scoring back.
I do, before Kyra makes her argument against, I think Bo might have had an argument against a lot of medical terminology being thrown around there. So, Kyra, is it strictly the injury while you're fading Henry, or?
It really is because, I was listening on a podcast that over at the Fantasy Footballers, Matthew Betts and Kyle Borgogan. He does a great job over there. But Matthew Betts is a certified PT, and he talked about this, and he said he feels that the injury needs to be like a slow comeback. He doesn't think it's going to be a full go yet. The type of injury he acquired just wasn't a good one. Not one to come back really fast and see, full King Henry unleash the Yeti. You know what I mean? We're not expecting that quite yet. So I am concerned about his workload at that price. And he does seem to be projected to have a high ownership. I think people are really excited to play Derrick Henry. So like Bo said, maybe fade the king and, get the leverage over there with Foreman. He's filled in either as a great, not replacement for Henry, but he's been his replacement recently. So you can do something like that. And I think that's why Bo also even said why he likes Ryan Tannehill is, as Jordan said, they're so much more efficient with Derrick Henry in the lineup. And they've honestly, you got to give it to Mike Vrabel. They've been getting it done with wide receivers that I still don't even remember their names. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I've even caught up with all that. But yeah, they're getting AJ Brown back. Not back, but they're getting Julio Jones back. They have AJ Brown out there now. They've been told that they're the worst number 1 seed that you've seen in a while, but man, they're coming back healthy. So they're going to look a lot better. I'm really excited about this game, but Henry, not quite there yet for me.
So what you'll end up happening is 3 no-name tight ends will score a touchdown for him this week.
For sure.
All right, so that's enough Derrick Henry talk. You guys also have a disagreement on Devin Singletary. Kyra, I'm gonna let you just keep continuing. You have a play grade on Devin Singletary.
So Devin Singletary, he's just been a force over his last 5 games. He's found himself a consistent role in this offense. He's the lead back in a high-scoring game and gets passing work. I mean, let's go for me. He's ran the highest route precipitation.
Participation.
Precipitation.
He's running a lot of routes.
Yes, he runs a lot of routes. The most out of all the divisional round running backs. It's that word, and what's that other word that I always get messed the hell up on?
Oh, differentiation.
Yes,
I threw at you. Yeah.
Can't do it. It's just not built for me. Why did I even do that to myself? How embarrassing. But
it was great.
Yeah. It's really, for me, I mean, I feel like Devin Singletary's volume feels the safest somehow out of all of these running backs on the slate. I mean, other than maybe Elijah Mitchell, he's always good for at least 17 rushing attempts. But I just like the direction that Devin Singletary's been going in. I mean, what has he scored in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? He's scored in his last 5 games, multiple touchdowns. He's getting that goal line work. I know we're always worried about Josh, I'm not trying to say I'm not even drunk right now. I'm drinking this Gatorade is pure Gatorade. I swear to God, this is
no vodka.
Nothing in there. I'm not pulling like an old high school move here on you guys or something. But yeah, I honestly love Devin Singletary on this slate. I'm not quite sure why Jordan wants to fade him. I'm curious to
let's hear about it.
Yeah.
So for the schedule, or I guess a game script adjusted rust percentage, this is more of a feeling of I think the Chiefs are going to get out on them early. I think the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, is changed. He's a different quarterback. He doesn't throw the ball downfield as much. He takes what the defense gives him. Without Tre'Davious White, I don't think the Bills have a player who can guard Tyreek Hill, because last year they tried to put Trey White onto Sammy Watkins for a few plays and let Teron Johnson guard Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had 3 targets for 90 yards.
Yeah,
this is who they're going to have to guard Tyreek Hill with. And from a game script perspective, I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, if the Chiefs get up early, I look at the Bills and I'm like, according to Awesome's schedule or game script adjusted rush percentage, the Bills ranked 4th in the NFL, lowest. They don't commit to the running game. And when it gets to the red zone, I know Devin Singletary's gotten them there. I know that he did it the last 4 to 5 weeks. But when they lost games, he doesn't get 20 carries. He doesn't get the 15 touches. The Bills don't give a guy 20 carries in losing games, and Josh Allen is just going to get higher usage. And I think this is just going to be a game where they're he's our best player. We're not giving him we're going to give him the ball in the red zone and use Singletary as an extra blocker. They did that in the first game against them where I believe it was Zach Moss who was used towards the red zone, but it was he basically blocked for him. I just think Josh Allen's going to take the rushing work towards the goal line. I think Singletary will get the 14 to 16 touches. And I just don't, if he doesn't score, I don't see him being able to pay off the price point.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. And one of the best pieces of advice, and Jordan, you just did it, and Kyra does it all the time, and every guest we have on who's way smarter than me, and even Bo, who likes Singletary, when you're painting these game scripts, especially on small slates, you have to tell yourself how you think the game's going to go. And that's where you could end up, like, Jordan's going to be different in this game from people who think that Buffalo is going to win this game. He doesn't see it that way. And that's the best advice I've gathered from this show. And I'm a person who's played fantasy forever. I am not good at DFS. The show has certainly made me better. But tell yourself a story about how the game's going to go, and that's going to kind of paint how you're going to build your team around that slate. So where you have Kyra, and I'm going to put you guys on the spot and have you pick the games later. You have Kyra and Bo, who probably think Buffalo is going to win this game, whereas Jordan thinks it's going to be a Kansas City runaway. So just keep that in mind when you're making your picks. And then finally, if Derrick Henry is the biggest talk of the town, Derrick Henry Jr. is going to be Leonard Fournette, also coming off of an injury, arguably a scarier injury because we know how hamstring injuries like to pop back up. So Jordan, you have him as a fade as well. And I'm going to guess this has a lot to do with injury.
Oh yeah, no, this is 100% injury. If Leonard Fournette wasn't like, if he was coming off of like a freaking shoulder sprain and was just like, yep, I'm good, I would be playing Leonard Fournette. But the quote from Bruce Arians last week into why he didn't play was he tried to open it up and you could see him throttle back and or something like along those lines. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, that scares me to every single degree. And also the way that I see the Rams game going, it's like, yes, he has the ability to get the multiple touchdowns, but Keyshawn Vaughn has ran just fine. And they used Giovanni Bernard in the red zone as like a goal line back last week. Like, I think there's trust with the two running backs that they had from last week and the week before. And last year, Ronald Jones in the playoffs had a hamstring injury. He was we're going to activate him on IR against the Saints. And then all of a sudden it's like, yep, no P's, not playing. And Leonard Fournette is going to basically take full reins. And then playoff Lenny was born, where we thought it was going to be like a split. DFS people were like, oh, you're getting Ronald Jones on the showdown slate for really cheap. Man, just never saw the field ever again. Nope. Leonard Fournette is a lot more talented than Vaughn and Giovanni Bernard, but I think both of those guys still have roles. And for me, the player that just mentioned this earlier was AJ Dillon. I'll just pay down to.
Yeah. I imagine we'll be talking AJ Dillon when we get down to the bottom half of the slate. Yeah, I figured as much. Kyra, you are not afraid of Leonard Fournette, and you basically threw that right in Jordan and I's face as soon as you entered the chat earlier today. So let's dive into that.
Yeah, well, because last week you threw it back in mine when you're like, you're not afraid of that hamstring, like of course I am, you know what I mean? But maybe other people will be too. I'm trying to look at his projected ownership this week. If he's
well, while you're looking at
so he's actually supposed to be super chalky.
I'd say I'm notoriously against soft tissue and hamstring injuries. I adapted this in fantasy football for my redraft leagues about 2 years ago. If they're questionable with a hamstring, they do not make my lineup. I don't care who they are because I'm not losing them in the first quarter and losing my matchup.
Right.
DFS kind of amplifies that even worse because you only get one shot at this. If I lose week 7, I'm going to come back and win week 8. That's not how this works.
I mean, granted, unlike Derrick Henry, at least like DraftKings gave Leonard Fournette like a couple handicaps here for.
That's fair.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? He's priced down at 5,700 compared to Derrick Henry, who's up at 7,500. So it's a pretty big price difference. I could see why people really want to be plugging Leonard Fournette in there because I mean, if he does get his full rollback, he was. I mean. If we're worried about the pass rush over there for the Rams, then Leonard Fournette is going to get all the dink and dunks. And I think that the Rams, that's kind of how they force you to play. They might not give up long completions, but I mean, Tom Brady's good for a dink and dunk to Leonard Fournette, and he could get multiple targets in this game, and he could turn those into big opportunities. And I guess that's how I was seeing it. And I kind of see it the same for like Giovanni Bernard. Like I like him as like a sleeper in case, hey, maybe Leonard Fournette isn't his, obviously we know he's not 100%, but maybe he can't fight through it. And we get Giovanni Bernard a lot in this game. We saw him blow up against the Rams actually when they played in week 3 or something like that. Gio Bernard had a ton of targets, had a great game. I think he had like 20 DraftKings points. So, I mean, one of these running backs is going to have a good game, I feel like, and it's just a matter of deciphering who it's going to be. So if you want to eat the chalk, you want Leonard Fournette, man, go for it. If you want to take the sleeper in Giovanni Bernard, I think that's not a bad idea either.
So one thing I will throw out, I don't know how many people are playing in these underdog playoff matchups right now. Leonard Fournette is buried in that lineup. He is below like 7 backup running backs before you actually find his name. I found him completely by accident in one of the last drafts I did today. So while I don't while I don't agree with Kyra because I hate hamstring injuries, in a underdog type format where you get froze out at running back if you wait too long, if you dig deep enough, Fournette's not the worst flyer to take at the very end there. So just to recap, running back, you're playing Aaron Jones. You're playing Elijah Mitchell. You are fading Joe Mixon. You are fading Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You're fading Cam Akers. Kyra says play Derrick Henry. Kyra says fade Derrick Henry. Jordan says play him. Kyra says play Devin Singletary and Leonard Fournette. Jordan says fade him. A lot of that plays into injury, so it's just going to really be what your risk tolerance is. Mine is absolutely nothing. So we're going to jump over to tight end. And like I said, guys, we're going to finish up the show talking wide receivers. I'm going to give these guys more free reign. I just wanted to kind of hit all of these since they're 1Z positions. With tight end, you guys agreed wholeheartedly on everybody, and I don't even know that we need to spend a ton of time talking about who you disagree on, but I'll give you a couple seconds. We are all playing Josiah DeGuara, and obviously that's going to be a big differentiation move there. We are fading CJ Uzomah, playing Dawson Knox, playing Rob Gronkowski, fading George Kittle, playing Travis Kelce, and playing Tyler Higbee. Before we talk about George Kittle, because he's the more controversial one here, you're fading such a big name there in a small slate. Briefly, I guess, Jordan, just talk to me. Kyra, you don't even have to talk about why you're fading him. Jordan, talk to me about why you are interested in playing Anthony Firkser.
I'm interested in Tannehill, and in Tannehill stacks, I'll take the 3,100 tight end just as a complete discount. I think he can catch a touchdown. He's caught 2 weeks in a row, I believe, and he's complete. Hey, if you can't get to Kelce, Kittle, or those guys because they're pretty cheap. I mean, Kittle's pretty cheap, but I'll take Firkser for 3,100 with my Tannehill stacks. I'm not playing Firkser without Tannehill. That's
okay. So it's 100% betting on game script in that situation. Yes. So, okay, you mentioned that Kittle's pretty cheap, but you both have him as a fade. So, Jordan, just keep going a little bit on why we are fading George Kittle, and then Kyra, I'll let you chime in.
So, with Kittle as a fade, I think that he's just going like Jimmy Garoppolo. I just can't trust that thumb and the way he threw the football in the first game. Alongside with Devonte Campbell as a Pro Bowl linebacker for a reason. He's one of the best in covering tight ends this year. He was super great in Atlanta, and you saw that when they made their Super Bowl run. Like, they were able to shut down the tight end position with him and Deion Jones. Deion Jones will just get all the tackles while Campbell is in coverage a lot. He matches up really well with Kittle, and I just think that with some of the pass rushers back for Green Bay and Jair Alexander back, like, I believe that with the way they're going to match up in this game, like, if those pass rushers are getting to him, they're going to bring Kittle in as a blocker because that's what they've done, and that's what they will do because that's what makes the most sense for that team.
Kyra, anything to add to that?
I essentially felt the same way. Like, Green Bay's defense is getting healthier, and that's what's going to happen. Is George Kittle is going to come in as a blocker opposed to a receiver, and we've seen it happen multiple times. So it's not like it's a crazy thought. And on top of that, you do have the Jimmy G injury. So can we really trust him? You know, we haven't really been able to trust George Kittle here in a little bit. So I'm just fading him, especially when I just much rather the upside, the touchdown upside of some other bigger names on the slate.
You know, I want to throw one more thing out because Bo chimed in here. He's with the NorCal tight end double up. I don't think anybody's advocating actually playing this as a lineup, but if you do and win money, congratulations. But you both have a play on Josiah DeGuara, and a lot of people probably don't know who he is. So, Kyra, go ahead and talk a little bit about, is this another Anthony Firkser type situation where it's a stack with Aaron Rodgers only, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Would have to be a stack with Aaron Rodgers only. I mean, he's just running a ton of routes out there. So he's out there, you know what I mean? You have no MVS. There's just a chance for a touchdown. You know, that's really, if I'm going to punt the position, that's a total punt, you know? I'm not necessarily looking to do, but it's just one way to get different. Not a lot of people are going to play him. He's probably one of the least chalky tight ends on the slate, no doubt about it. So that was my thought process there. Is he's just out there enough to get the opportunities, and he gets a couple targets a game from Aaron Rodgers. So,
Jordan, anything to add to that?
Oh, just from like a coverage perspective, as a 49ers run a cover 2, cover 4 type of scheme, similar to like the Browns. And you look at or Josiah DeGuara's catches, and like he had 5 catches against cover 4, 4 against cover 6. Like he matches up into the guy that's like, oh, you're bracketing, you know, Allen Lazard, Devonta Adams, and Randall Cobb, or you're covering those guys. DeGuara's just like, I'm here, I'm wide open, just throw me over the middle of the field. That's pretty much what you're getting out of him. I think he's, again, another cheap option where you don't have to necessarily stack him for Rodgers with me. Just he's one of those guys that He gets 3 catches and falls in the end zone. That's cool.
There you go.
That
I
price.
say, that works at tight end. Ain't that the damn truth? So,
Yeah, you want your tight end to get a touchdown. Let's put it
Yep.
that way.
very
If
true.
they don't, especially when they're not a volume tight end. So
Yeah.
that's what we're hoping for with DeGuara.
There you go. So you're playing DeGuara, you are fading Uzoma, you're playing Knox, you're playing Gronk, you're playing Kelsey, you're playing Higbee, but you are fading George Kittle. And then depending on how you feel about Ryan Tannehill, you are either playing or fading Anthony Ferkser. Defense, I'm going to let you guys chat just a little bit. You're playing the Packers, you're fading the Bengals, you're playing the Buccaneers, you're fading the 49ers, you're playing the Rams, and then there's some disagreement. And I think this is going to wholly come down to who you guys thought was going to win versus not win, and maybe a little bit of game script. So let's start with the Titans. Kyra, you have them as a fade. Jordan, you have them as a play. Jordan, you and I talked a little bit before the game. I'm big on the Bengals this week. You are not. So go ahead and explain to us why the Titans are probably going to win this game.
So Vrabel has plenty of time to prepare, and like I kind of see this Bengals team, like they're phenomenal. One of the most exciting teams in the NFL, but it's kind of like a crawl before you walk situation with
There you
them.
go.
Where I look at like the Titans, like they've been here. They went to the AFC Championship 2 years ago. They're getting healthy. Vrabel's got time to study you. The Bengals don't have the offensive line. I think this is a game where you look at it and you're like, man, this is what we need to address to get to that next level. Because if the Bengals get down early and it's forced to, they are throwing, that pass rush of Tennessee is very dangerous, and they will get after Burrow. And it's shown he's gotten, I think, sacked 3 or 4 times in the last like 5 or 6 games. And then you look at the other side of things, like Burrow has had turnovers that turn into touchdowns. And like, obviously that's what I'm looking for. I was surprised to see them coming in as high of ownership as they are. I didn't expect that. That's something that I kind of now don't like them as much. But still, they're not exactly that expensive on DraftKings, and $2,900 is something I'm willing to pay against the quarterback that, again, he got by the Raiders. That was a game that I expected him to compete and get by, but now this is a defense that's going to come at him in a different way.
And we'll just get it out there right now. You are picking the Titans to beat the Bengals this week,
Yes,
correct?
yeah,
All
yes.
right. Kyra, I know it's probably just, I know you're muted, right? Okay, you're there. I know
I'm
you're
here.
probably
Yes,
just
sir.
avoiding going against red hot Joe Burrow, but do you have any other reason why you would be fading the Titans defense?
Yeah, it's pretty much just going up against that offense. Given the fact that they give up the most, one of the most, I don't know if they're the most, but they're the most pretty high passing.
At one point, it was the most.
I think they were the most. I don't know if technically they are
Yes.
now, but they give up so many passing yards, and Joe Burrow on that. They have an aerial attack over there. It's like unfair. Their wide receivers that they have playing out there. It's someone I would construct in Madden or something. You know what I mean? So, for me, it's just the fact that I think that this game is going to be a high scoring game. Obviously the Titans have a decent pass rush. They're not bad at all, but I'm not thrilled to play the Titans.
All right. So on the spot, who's going to win?
Oh man. I really don't know in this game. And I feel like I have a little bit of bias because I have a Bengals friend that drives me crazy. So I really like to see him quiet.
Okay. See, so that's a wonderful debate. One of my best friends in this world is a huge Bengals fan, and I am rooting for the Bengals. But every time we've talked this week, he's become progressively more obnoxious about it. And so now I'm like, do I want the Titans to win so you'll shut up? Like, that's almost where I am at this point, too.
Dude, he's been sending me pictures of Joe. Like, it's like, I think it's Joe Burrow holding up his college trophies, and it like he has a Lombardi trophy like put into it, and it's ever since they drafted Jamar Chase, he's been sending me this. So like I'm just sick of it. I can't look at it another day. Like this is your first time doing the playoffs here. It's so long, and now you just think you're just going straight to the Super Bowl. So I guess that can I see them beating the Titans? Yes, I can. Do I think that they're going to the Super Bowl? I think it's a hard path in the AFC.
Right.
But yeah, I'm going to root for the Titans today.
All right, before we get into your other disagreement, I just want to kind of throw a couple things out here to make sure I'm reading the room right. You both say play the Packers. You both say fade the 49ers. We don't need to talk about their defenses. Do you both think the Packers win this game?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty heavily. Yeah.
All right, perfect. And so then we're going to get to the Chiefs Bills. So let's just quickly talk, because you both have the Buccaneers as a play. You both have the Rams as a play. I think this is based on Brady's turned the ball over a little bit this year. Stafford loves to turn the ball over. So I think we're banking on turnovers and maybe defensive touchdowns here.
I'm thinking sacks too, just because of how the offensive line has just kind of crumbled a little bit for the Bucs. I mean, I know they're getting some guys out there, but I don't think they're very healthy, so. And Jordan was trying so hard to get in and out of that game last week. So
yeah, and Jordan, you had hit on this offensive line earlier too. So
yeah, and Whitworth is also out for the Rams. So those are two big cases.
So I'm going to put you guys on the spot with this one, and who's going to win this game?
I've got the Rams.
I have the Rams to the upset. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Buccaneers in that one. And now let's talk about you guys kind of disagree on these defenses, and I think it's game script. So Kyra, you say play the Bills, fade the Chiefs. Jordan, you're the exact opposite. And I think we've kind of already touched on this and who we think is going to win the game. So Kyra, you talk for a little bit about why the Bills are going to win this game.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at every metric of the Bills defense, I mean, they're one of the top tier defenses in the league. So I know that Patrick Mahomes has taken he's taken a turn from who they played, back in week 5, where the Bills defense just kind of annihilated Patrick Mahomes. But this could be a game where it's an emotional game. It's an intense game. I think that you could easily have a lot of turnovers in this game from either side, honestly. You know what I mean? Like, they could be out there. They're both gunslingers. You could have interceptions at any given time. I think that the Bills are priced so cheap for me at 2,600 on DraftKings. I can't fade them because I like to take a chance on them being the defense that they are, the strong defense that they've been all season, and take my shot.
All right. And Jordan, tell us why the Chiefs are going to win.
So with the Bills and their metrics that I agree with, they've been phenomenal. They've played 2 quarterbacks that have thrown for 4,000 yards this year. Brady and Mahomes. Brady put up 38 on him. Mahomes turned the ball over 4 times and still managed to get 20 on him. I think the Bills, and I was with Tre'Davious White. Without Tre'Davious White, they haven't necessarily been tested in that regard, because you look at their schedule. They're in the AFC East, so you've got the Patriots. That offense doesn't exactly scare you. No. You've got the Dolphins, and the Jets. So none of those teams are going to really put up points. And then they played the Panthers division. So you had the Falcons, Panthers, and the Saints, and they didn't play the Saints with Jameis. They played them with Trevor Siemian. They had a ton of easy games against quarterbacks where they were able to take advantage of, and they did it because they're definitely a stellar defense. But Mahomes has lowered his ADOT. He's changed the way that he's approaching the game. And for me, I look at it and I'm like, if this guy is willing to take the check down now and play a little bit more like Brady and some of these guys have made it really far, it scares the hell out of me, because now the Bills defense won't get the turnover upside, and this dude's just going to torch them when they come up and try to take away the short stuff.
There you go. I do want to just quickly throw out before we dive into the meat and potatoes. Our buddy Bo taking differentiation to an entire different level. He's going to throw a lineup with Swayman DeGuara out there. He just wants to get different, and that's what this is all about. And that's what this whole final segment is going to be about. With the guys we're talking about, there's 8 guys at each of these positions. Running back gives you a little bit of options, but it's really player fade. Who do you trust? Who do you not trust? Where you're going to get different. And we saw it last week with big games out of players who you didn't expect to have big games. Zay Jones, though we did call him out on the show. So you're going to have guys who are going to score touchdowns, and they're going to make your lineup. And that's why I really wanted these guys to focus on wide receivers, backup running backs. That's what I kind of told them to put their heart and soul into. So we're going to start with favorite players. I'm going to start with the guest. Jordan, your favorite play of the week absolutely is?
Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill against Teron Johnson. He killed him last year in the playoffs, and even this year when he got guarded by Teron Johnson, it was a killer matchup. PFF had, when Trey White guarded Tyreek Hill his first time around, Tyreek Hill had 7 targets, 3 catches for 33 yards. Without that, I just don't think the Bills are going to be able to keep up with them. They're not going to be able to tackle them. And with the way the Chiefs have been playing, it's been a lot of the short stuff. I was worried about that heel injury coming into that Steelers game, but the man backflipped in the end zone, and I'm okay with it. That's all I needed to see. He's a freak of nature, and a lot of people are going to be in on Kelsey, and I believe Tyreek Hill's ownership isn't exactly that high compared to what I thought it would be when he's 6,600. This dude has 50-point upside. There's not many players like him, and he hasn't necessarily gotten it in the playoffs, but this is a different Mahomes. I'm excited to see what we see against the Bills, where he gets a 10-catch game or something crazy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Seeing Tyreek Hill at 6,600 in comparison to some of these elite wide receivers, which he easily could be, and he could break a slate any given Saturday, Sunday. Well, he's Sunday tomorrow, but Tyreek Hill is a great call in this game for sure.
And you went a different route, Kyra?
Yeah, so I really love Devonte Adams this week. I keep putting him in every single one of my lineups because he's just a 49er killer. I mean, in the 5 games versus the 49ers since 2018, he averages almost nearly 14 targets a game. He's went over 100 yards in 4 out of the 5 games and scored a touchdown in 4 out of the 5 games. So he just always returned value going up against the 49ers, and they're still decimated at corner. So Josh Norman isn't doing anything to stop Devontae. His floor and ceiling compared to the rest of the slate just kind of feels unmatched for me. So I really like to get Devonte Adams into my lineups this week.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. These are probably the best 2 players playing over this weekend, Devonte Adams and Tyreek Hill.
And I mean, it is the playoffs, and Aaron Rodgers, he's going to go to the dude that he trusts the most, and he's going to feed it. He's going to feed Devonte Adams.
Especially with MVS out.
I think without MVS, Devonte Adams has like a 45% target share or something absolutely ridiculous too. It's something like it was something absurd when I remember looking at that stat. And like they tried to bracket him the first game. Like that's the best they got.
Yeah.
This is what they like. The Devonte Adams, the one thing people underrate with him is just his ability to read a defense, find the soft spot, understand the bracket coverage. The way the Ravens played him, they're like, nope, we're getting 2 people right here. We don't care. And he's still being able to get open, which is just remarkable.
Yeah, he's impressive.
And the trust he and Rodgers have that he doesn't even necessarily need to do what he's supposed to do. He's allowed to go find the soft spot, and it just works out. Yeah. Well, obviously, those are some high-dollar plays. We call this segment Deep Sea Dives. It's a little bit different this week. I don't even know how I want to handle this because you guys just went ham and have so many good players. I guess just alternate. You guys talk about these guys for the next 5 to 10 minutes. So go to town.
Yeah. So for me, one of my favorite plays this week that I've plugged him in all of my lineups is Tyler Boyd. He's the cheaper, more productive T. Higgins over the last couple of weeks, to be honest, as an option. He's had a touchdown in each of his last 4 games. He's got a favorable matchup with the Titans, who have allowed the most fantasy points per game to opposing slot wide receivers. He's not going to be heavily owned, especially in comparison to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And I'm going to bet that Burrow's probably going to want to get that ball out pretty fast versus the Titans pass rush. So why not to his slot guy? I think that for the cheap price that he's at, he's a great help to build your lineups, and he could be super productive.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. The other fun fact I forgot with the Titans, Kirsten Fulton played high school football with Jamar Chase. Played in college with Jamar Chase, Jamar Chase, and guarded T. Higgins in the national championship game when they played Clemson.
So there's some history
LSU.
there.
T. Higgins had 1 catch on 7 targets from Kirsten Fulton guarding him, which was insane. I don't know what Vrabel's going to do. I think it's maybe 2 catches on 5. I don't know. Anyways, he didn't have a good game against them.
Not a big game.
But Kirsten Fulton guarded Jamar Chase all year in practice, so I'm interested to see how they match up because they're obviously high school teammates and now college teammates. I mean, both made it to the NFL. Huge game. That's an interesting one. And I love Tyler Boyd because he'll get matched up with Elijah Molden. My first player that I absolutely love is Julio Jones. I've been an Alabama fan my whole life, so obviously have a little bias there. I'm going to let you guys know that that's just something that's with me. But in specific with this matchup, when you look at the Bengals corner, Chidobe Awuzie is not big enough. And you look at Mike Hilton, he's a slot guy. He's not guarding Julio. If they put Eli Apple on him, Eli Apple has had 1 shot at Julio Jones in his career. And that was with Marcus Lattimore on the Saints. Eli Apple went ahead with help because they put Marshawn Lattimore on Ridley and just like, oh, you're going to basically guard him and shut him down. And we're going to double Julio. Julio Jones, 9 targets, 90 yards, 5 first downs. And the longest catch was only 21 yards.
Wow.
If he gets Eli Apple the whole game, because you can't just, I don't think Eli Apple's strong enough. He's more lanky. Like he kind of fits best against Julio for their matchup. It's going to get ugly. And if they try to go elsewhere, the backup corner is Trey Norwood, I believe, who can't guard him, and Vernon Hargreaves, who definitely didn't exactly do well with Tampa Bay against Julio Jones.
Yeah. That makes sense. You can go ahead and move on to your next guy. Actually, it's interesting that you guys both have opposite Bills wide receivers for your second slot here. So
yeah. So Gabe Davis, I worked with UCF football recruiting. I actually got to meet Gabe Davis, know him from people golf with him that are friends with me and stuff. It hurts to go against Gabe here, but I think the Chiefs again are going to be playing 2 safeties back. they're going to trust that their defensive line moving Chris Jones inside is going to stop Josh Allen from doing those QB powers that killed him the first time around. And when it comes to cover 2 coverage, Cole Beasley is the most targeted receiver on this team. He didn't do anything against Patriots, but he just never really does. They just kind of take that away from Josh Allen, and they didn't need to use him. I think with 2 safeties back and just the way that the Chiefs are going to coverage, where they're not going to let Josh Allen get to Dawson Knox downfield. They're going to do their best to keep Diggs out of that deep passes. For me, I think Cole Beasley's going to have to win underneath to keep those safeties, or maybe even bring a safety down. And if that's the case, he's going to get like that high type of catch game. And he's coming in fairly low ownership after being awful against the Patriots.
Bo disagrees with you here. So, Kyra, before we get to Gabe Davis, Bo is thinking that Isaiah McKenzie's kind of taken over that Cole Beasley role. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, they're playing like a wide receiver committee over there. And that's really kind of like, it's kind of anybody's guess, like who's going to be running more routes.
And you have a different guess.
Yeah, my guess, I guess, is going to be Gabriel Davis. And obviously this play can totally whiff if he doesn't snake another touchdown for you. But this game has the highest over-under, and I know that Allen has an eye for Davis in the end zone. So in a game, we want to get exposure to these guys one way or another. I know that, hey, we may guess wrong on who it's going to be. Maybe Dawson Knox does get all the touchdowns, but I'll shoot my shot on Davis. He ran a couple more routes than the rest of his wide receiver committee last week outside of, Stephon Diggs. So I'll just take the guy who's out there for more opportunity.
Bo is just going in on Cole Beasley right now.
I see it.
Not targeted since Nam.
It hasn't been the best for him, but hey,
no.
you never know.
So, Kyra, with MVS out, it looks like you are leaning another Packers wide receiver for your third guy.
Yeah, I mean, I know as much as Aaron Rodgers does trust Devonta Adams, Lazard has actually gained his trust over the last couple of weeks. He's had 8 touchdowns in his last 10 games. He's continued to be a big part of that offense. There is no MVS, so hopefully maybe we can get Lazard in there for more potential on his deep targets. Honestly, I just, as cheap as he is down there, he's worth a shot for a touchdown in this game. So that's really my thought process on Allen Lazard. You got to forgive me. I didn't go too deep on these guys here in my notes, just because I wasn't feeling my best this week. So forgive me on the lack of Allen Lazard.
Oh, stop it. Exactly. That's what this is all about.
It really just had everything to do with, like, when I'm looking at the low price range, in the sub 4,000. I mean, yeah. Allen Lazard, you can take a shot. I just think he's.
I was going to say, do we need much more?
he's just the most consistent recently. He sees the targets. He gets over his last 3 games. He has at least over 5 targets every game. He's been putting up double digits here for a little bit. So, I mean, you can take a shot. Allen Lazard, Van Jefferson, take a shot for the long touch.
Well, I was going to say, before the show, Jordan shared a story with us that sometimes being cheap is the right option. Steph Curry versus Luka Doncic. So yeah. I think it works out. Jordan, you have the resurgence that is Odell Beckham as your third favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at this Buccaneer secondary, and they just don't have that. Like, they don't have the talent to guard Odell with Cooper Kupp and even Van Jefferson. In that first matchup, like, they got dominated, and that was with Djax as their fill-in receiver, third type of dude. They did have Robert Woods, but Djax was like the main guy here. But now it's Odell Beckham. Like, Odell is starting to get more connection with Stafford, and I think Odell is just going to show people, like, hey guys, I'm still super, super talented. Like, you can't forget about one of the more talented receivers in the NFL that just was in QB purgatory, and just one of those guys that, like, again, he's a GPP like slate type of guy. I'm not trying to put him in my cash lineups. Like, he scored touchdowns recently, which is cool because he gets red zone usage. But, like, there's a good chance that he gets like 3 catches, 25 yards, and a touchdown, because for whatever reason, McVay's like, okay, you're super good in the red zone. Cooper Kupp, you'll be my guy for everything else. And Van Jefferson, you'll get the deep crossing routes. So that's there. I was actually torn with that last pick because I was big McCole Hardman versus Odell, but I love Tyreek Hill so much because the one of the things that I shared with you guys earlier about the route coverages and stuff, the Bills, what they struggled against mostly is screen passes as a defense. So Tyreek Hill can catch a screen. McCole Hardman catches screens. Like, I don't like that Byron Pringle, Demarcus Robinson type of players. And then another thing to add with just Cole Beasley, because I forgot to put it in here, it's on my notes. The Chiefs, the 2 routes that they get beat on the most are the 2 routes that Cole Beasley runs the most out of his route tree. It's curl routes and out routes. It's just like the quick type of stuff. Cole Beasley runs the most on both of those, and actually is second on the team in targets on most targets on curl routes and out routes. So
there you go. Before we jump into
you're not crazy about Byron Pringle this week?
Well, you know what? Hold on. Let's just throw this out here. So Van Jefferson or Byron Pringle, if you have $4,200 left to spend, neither one of you guys mentioned this. Which one of these guys would you throw out? Go ahead, Jordan.
Oh, I mean, lineup construction super, super important with this. Depending if you're playing Mahomes and you only have Kelsey, I'll take the shot on Pringle. But if you don't have Mahomes and you're just playing any quarterback, you're North Carolina, like you're getting Rodgers in there for whatever reason, for the stacking otherwhere, like I would go Van Jefferson just because I think he has a bigger play upside, and I know Pringle's earned a role in this offense. I think they just don't care who their wide receiver 3 is. They'll use whatever the team's doing worse. And with Mahomes keeping it short and the Bills keeping 2 safeties, I think it's going to be a heavy like Pringle or Hardman game compared to Pringle and Demarcus Robinson.
Kyra, it sounded like you were going to advocate for Van, or am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, no, I agree with how it is about roster construction there. So like if you're, if you do have Mahomes and you're like, yeah, throw Pringle in there, but Van Jefferson, again, he's not going to be as consistent as probably what Pringle has been over the last couple of weeks. So you're just really hoping for, the big Van touchdown. You're hoping for something like that. So the ceiling is much higher than the consistency of what Pringle's been.
Bo's on board with you guys. So you guys each listed some running backs. Kyra, you listed 2 because you don't play this game, right? But they're essentially
we didn't have any initially. And
that's fair.
Yep. I threw 2 in. I'm like, shit.
I love it. But you actually got 2 guys who basically play a similar role for their team. So talk to me about some pass catchers.
So one of my guys was going to be Giovanni Bernard. He just might be a sneaky option, having Fournette come off the injury. I know we talked about it a little bit more, but he's actually kind of just become a reliable weapon for Tom Brady. And we know that Tom Brady likes his reliable weapons. So Arians did say that Fournette was going to play his full role. So if you want to be risky, I can't blame you for wanting to play Fournette, like I said before. And Giovanni Bernard, he did have the 20 DraftKings points against him last time. He could be that dink and dunk player just as easily as Fournette did, like I said. Another guy that I really like is Jerick McKinnon. We know CH, speaking of injuries, just injury galore here. So CH, he had a setback just last week. I know he's playing in this game, but just last week. Same thing with Fournette, I guess. So I'm kind of eating my words a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't been really healthy much this year. So I'm not fully confident that CH is going to come in here and get the full workload. Darrell Williams, he's injured as well. Reed will ride the hot hand. And I think that Jerick McKinnon could be the most healthy in this game. And he did well last week. So he sees those targets out of the backfield. This could be a great opportunity to save salary on a slate where it isn't particularly easy to do. So let's find a way to save the money and not be chalky. Throw in Jerick McKinnon in there. And one of the highest over-unders on the week. Those points got to be scored somewhere. So if the game goes in favor of how Jordan sees it, I mean, then McKinnon could eat in that game.
Yeah, sure. Kyra went with lightning. Jordan, you gave us some thunder for yours.
Yeah, Mr. AJ Dillon. I cold weather, playoff football, Lambeau. Like, I know Aaron Jones is the more talented running back. He does a lot more in the passing game. He's a lot more elusive. But, like, late in games, I just see that he's earned the role. Like, he's the guy that you go to. Like, A.J. Dillon's the dude that if you're up by 10 and you have the ball, begin the fourth quarter with, like, say, 12 minutes left, and you want a long drive, you just feed him the rock because this year he's just a thumper. Like, he's a dude that will get you 3 to 4 yards in pretty much every play that's not him getting tackled before he touches the ball. And with the Packers, he fits really well into what they're trying to do. I think LaFleur with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, it'll be a lot more of a split than I guess like it has been all year, but people are assuming, Aaron Jones is more healthy, that A.J. Dillon will kind of see the back seat. And like, I don't think that. I think A.J. Dillon earned the spot to be in it, and he actually showed upside as a passer this year, which was shocking to me watching him because I was a college football DFSer. So when seeing A.J. Dillon catch passes, I'm like, why didn't you do that at Boston College, Mister 45 carries? So no, that's my cheap running back. The running backs on the slate are just ugly. It's an ugly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's where Kyra had mentioned. I say Kyra had mentioned there were no running backs to start off, and you guys kind of added them later. But it is an ugly slate for the RBs. So.
Oh yeah, I'm going 2 RB builds. I'm not putting RB at my flex this week at all.
No,
there you go.
I'd rather chase the ceiling on a wide receiver compared to what they are compared to on the running backs.
Makes perfect sense. So just to quickly recap this big section, Kyra's favorite play, Devonta Adams. Jordan's favorite play, Tyreek Hill. No surprises there, but expect big games. Kyra is telling you to find ways to get Tyler Boyd, Gabe Davis, Allen Lazard, Jerick McKinnon, Gio Bernard into your lineup. Not all of them. That's not how you build a DFS lineup. Fit some of them in there. Jordan's telling you Julio Jones, Cole Beasley, Odell Beckham Jr., and A.J. Dillon. Guys, that is the show. What a wonderful way to break in this divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Jordan, thank you so much. Kicking that knowledge. What a great show it was. Please remind everybody what you're doing, where they can find your work, everything about you.
Yeah, so you can find me over at 4for4 and Awesemo. For Awesemo, I do video content, live stream shows just like this. Get you on the YouTube channel. Tomorrow I'll be live before lock with Eric Lindquist, and then for Tuesday I'll be a first look type of show. Hopefully DraftKings releases their pricing a little bit earlier before, because this Tuesday show they released it 5 minutes before, so we were like, yeah,
so you guys had plenty of time to do some analysis.
We were just like struts. This is the first look to the T here. With 4for4, I'm going to be doing the single or showdown slate, so I got an article coming out with the Bills Chiefs. That's about it for me. Appreciate you guys having me. It's a blast to be here, to be honest.
Well, I say I can't let you mentioned you do the round ball sport as well. So don't forget when football ends, basketball is going on. So follow Jordan. He'll get you hooked up with all of that. Kyra, parting words for the people.
Yeah, Jordan, love everything that you're doing. Obviously, I'm a big fan of you. I love seeing you on the podcast over at Awesemo and over your work over on 4for4 as well. I think you do fantastic, and you're a super underrated talent in the fantasy space. Everyone watching should be following you over on Twitter. So yeah, everybody go do that right now. If you're watching and you're not following Jordan, you absolutely have to do that. I always look forward to your couple little fun little stat tweets that you put out there before the games every week. As you've noticed, I've retweeted all of them. I think they're great information. You're, like I said, I think you're so underrated. I mean, you should
support
have
good people,
way more followers than you do. You do a lot of good work and a lot of things that keep me interested. So if I'm interested in your fantasy content, you're a damn good follow. I'll tell you that. Yes, the math magician. Yeah. So just really happy that you came on here. I look forward to doing something more with you next year as well. So stay tuned, everybody, for that. I hope that everyone enjoys the games today. I hope we win lots of money. If you do, especially Bo with your NorCal lineup, we'll take 10% of those winnings.
There you go. Because I challenged you.
Just for the inspiration,
Exactly.
But yeah, guys, good luck today. Hopefully we all become rich.
Yeah, make sure you're following Kyra at FantasyFF Kyra, fantasy with a PH because she's a Philly girl, at Jordan Vanek DFS. Those are the people you need to be following for great DFS information. Make sure you're following Club Fantasy. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. As soon as we hit probably, I don't know where we're at right now. I think we're pushing 350. As soon as we hit 350, we're going to give something else away. Check the website for articles. We'll have Dynasty content all off season long, but we still have our Blurred Lines betting article coming out every week by Joel Wirth and Chris Molina's Thrive article. So if you're looking for prop betting or regular betting, there are websites coming out, or there are articles on our website that will help you with that. Got a little tongue tied there. Next week will be our last DFS and Chill show going in. We're going to probably help you betting on the Super Bowl, but we'll help you on Twitter. We don't need to do a whole show for that. It will be Sunday. The games are all going to be on Sunday. So we're going to do Sunday at 1 p.m. with our buddy, Chris Robin. He was our first guest of the season. He's going to be our last guest of the season. However, Club Fantasy will have, no pun intended, every Wednesday. We are still in our accountability episodes. Chris Molina will be back with us this week. We'll be covering wide receivers this upcoming Wednesday with Joe Zello back on the show and a much, much more sober Josh. I'm almost positive. And then I also want to throw out there, follow IBT Media. We've been partnering with them for these divisional rounds. They've been putting out great graphics, hyping up our show. We love those guys over there. DFS Tailgate is on before us typically. Don't quite know what next week's going to look like, but do your best to watch both shows. And I believe that's everything. Kyra already said it. Good luck this week. We hope you win some money. And if we inspired you, we accept tips. Have a great week, guys.